Hey, it's Del Jackson. We're on episode number 3, end of December 2024. We got special guests tonight. We got Coach Larry Bellew from Penn Manor, just coming off a big win at Warwick, back to back, two years in a row. We got head writer and webmaster, fill-in webmaster, and score chaser downer, and standing man, and everything else that's going on behind the scenes at LLHoops. And we got our friend Rocky Parise, who was point guard at E Town. He's got a great company going. And we'll talk about that. What he does, he's one of our main sponsors, but he also has this idea, head coach at E Town, great point guard. We got Larry Bellew who played at E Town. We got Del Jackson. I don't know what the heck I did at E Town. I probably held coach's water bottle once in a while and told Barry to calm down. But besides that, it's like we got some good basketball guys here. So let's start with Rocky. Rocky, tell us what you're doing. Tell us about your company. Tell us your sites and how you even got started in this. I was so impressed with what chances you took and where you're at right now, the growth in your company.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Well, first of all, it's great to see you, Dell. I'm glad to see you back out on the camera and back out at games. Everybody was thinking about you, so it's really good to see you. It makes my heart feel good to be on a podcast here with you. So great to see Larry, one of my favorite guys in basketball, and you too, Andy. So yeah, a little bit about my company. I started it my last year that I was coaching at E Town. Always wanted to start a business, always had an entrepreneurial fire in me. And my kids told me every time I had a good idea, oh, it doesn't matter, you're not going to do anything about it. So finally, I thought I had a really good idea, and I wanted to prove that I could do something to my kids, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Um,
I love that. Kids motivating their parents. That's a little twist there. I like it.
Yeah, I don't like when people can't tell me I can't do something, even my
Yeah,
kids.
yeah.
Yeah, so we started in 2019, and it happened as an idea. Actually, I used to sit on the Blue Jay Alumni Association board at E-Town College, and it started as an idea there, and it eventually led to senior gifts. The biggest pain in the butt coaches have, number one, is senior gifts. And number two, if they want to give the jersey to the player, they have to pay not only to frame the jersey, but they have to pay to replace that jersey in the set for the following year. And Larry will attest to this. Even at a public school, even if you're getting new uniforms, you still have to pay to have the jersey replaced so it can sit up in storage somewhere, because it's not fair, because everybody needs to be on the same playing field. So if there's some sports that aren't getting new jerseys and some that are, you can't let the ones have the jerseys that are getting new jerseys. So I saw a hole in the market, and I have a friend of mine who's a graphic designer, and it just happened with a call in 2019. We got together. Our first prototype was actually a printed out piece of cardboard that we put in a frame. And we realized that that wasn't going to work, and we went through a bunch of other prototypes that led us to where we are today. So what My Jersey is, www.myjerseydesigns with an s.com. What it is, it's a graphic design of a sports jersey. It looks very real, because I've always said when people frame jerseys, they try to iron them and make them so flat and perfect with no wrinkles, they almost look fake when it's a real jersey. So what we're doing is we're just mimicking that. It's one sheet of paper. We have this nice, digital matting that goes around it. We have a nice digital plaque that goes on the bottom. So basically what you see is just a high definition printed piece of really high quality paper, custom framed. And I can't believe where we're at today. Sales have honestly, they've pretty much doubled every year that we've been in business. Never thought it'd be possible, the business that we're doing right now. So I'm just very blessed, because it all started with quite frankly, you, Larry, the Lancaster Lebanon League. It started with relationships that I had with coaches, and people, email me. They know me, they trust me. So, it wasn't like I have to take a risk in this company that I don't know anything about. I know that they're going to do a good job, and if there's any issues with it, they'll do right by me. So that's pretty much how it started. And we really focus on team sales: basketball, football, baseball. but any sports. We've gotten into a lot of volleyball jerseys, a lot of wrestling singlets, things like that.
I noticed, and I share this with other people, like somebody goes to is like a good high school player and goes to college and has different jerseys or has cards or has a picture, a cool picture. You incorporate that stuff and custom made stuff too. And I think that's really neat, you know. I mean, we got the digital stuff, but to hang something on the wall and then I tell you, Rocky, we get guys on our webcast here and half of the time they got one of your jerseys in the background. It's
Yeah,
great. I'm like, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And to let our viewers know also, I mean, we have your symbol down at the bottom of all our pages, and they can just click on that. It'll take them right to the website, and then they can order and contact and things like that. So
yeah. And we try to keep it really personal. Still, we're a small company. It's a two-man shop, and we like that personal relationship feel when you're ordering. So it's not like you just get on some vanilla website that you type all your stuff in, you never hear from anybody. I'm interacting with people via text, via email, and just making sure everything is exactly right. And the crazy thing is, Dell, we're at about 22,400 my jerseys that we've produced
yeah.
to date in 5 years.
So that
So
was one of my questions I was going. And the next question I was has, and I think I know the answer, but when is your busiest time? I mean, you guys gotta get cranked at certain times. It's like, all right, end of basketball season and a baseball season. When are you guys the busiest?
yeah, good question. We're the busiest December, January, and February. Basketball is the heart of our business. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to branch out from that and sort of mimic what we did with basketball, with football, and with baseball, and with volleyball, and with wrestling. But it's for me, it's really nice because in the winter in the past I would coach. So now, I'm looking for something to do in the winter. My jersey keeps me very busy in the winter, but the summer is a downtime. Summer I can get down to the beach and relax a little bit. And as a business owner and not a coach, Larry, sorry, but I don't have to worry about open gyms, and I don't have to worry about lifting. I don't have to worry about team camp, and so I can really just sort of shut it down in the summer, which is really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that means your wife likes you and all that kind of stuff,
yeah,
So
yeah.
Yeah, yes,
yeah.
yes. My wife likes me a lot more these days,
More.
Larry.
Yeah. Yeah. We were talking about off camera, Larry and I were about the time constraints that head coaches for boys basketball and girls basketball. It people don't understand until they live the life. And everybody is working hard. I mean, there's no coaches out there that aren't working hard and aren't trying to win and aren't playing the best players. So it's it's like nobody knows until you walk in their shoes. We've heard that before, and it's sometimes it's rewarding as all get out, and sometimes it's frustrating. And I know both you and Larry probably had nights where you're up at 1 o'clock looking at tape, trying to figure out what the heck you could do, and you can't do anything. You know,
Yeah,
you're
and
stuck.
I'll give another shameless plug here. I actually did a podcast called the Early Retirement High
Mhm.
School Coaching Podcast. I did that, started in 2020, and we sort of ended it in 2023. But we did 31 episodes. For anybody out there, it's free content.
Yeah.
It's through SoundCloud, and we actually did a podcast with some coaches about the time constraints and how you manage being a head coach and being a parent and
Yeah.
having a regular normal job as a teacher or in some other realm. So if anybody's interested, you can find us on X. It's Early Retirement Pod,
Right.
Early Retirement Podcast, or something like that. But as soon as you type in early retirement, it should
Yeah.
pop up.
Andy, I got to put that on our links. Not that everybody hits our links, but we can add that on. So I'm going to pass the buck here a little bit to Andy and see if he has any direct questions, and then we'll get Larry on, and then we'll bid you adieu. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah. Hey, Rock, it's good to see you again. I miss seeing you in my travels, but it's good to see you on here. And I can personally attest, I am a satisfied customer. I got two of your bad boys staring right at me as I'm looking. They're centered around my TV screen. So not only are you a good friend who makes a good, product, but I can personally vouch for it. It's a fantastic product. I'd recommend it. I know you guys do a bang up job with the senior night sales and everything like that. I guess my main question is there anything you guys can't do? Like, I know, like when we're talking about like old guys, like 50s, 60s, like maybe we need to look for like a small snippet of like a yearbook photo. Like what can you guys work with realistically to say, okay, thank you for submitting that. We can go to bat for you with that. What are some of the things that people need to send in from yesteryear if they're looking to get a reincarnation of their jersey?
Yeah, good question. The real, as long as you have some sort of picture, it could literally be anything, because it's a fully customized product. So basically, what happens is somebody will give us a picture. Let's say it's a horrendous black and white blurry photo, but we can kind of make out. They can tell us what the school's name is. They can tell us what the color is, and we put a draft together, and then we send it to the person and say, okay, from your memory, you tell us what's off here. What would you like to change? Well, I think the blue is a little bit more navy. I think the font was a little bit wider and not as thin. And then we just go back and forth like that until it's just right for the customer. I mean, that's having a fully customized product. That's the advantage to that. It's not just, oh, this is the best that we can do. It's like, no, you tell me how you want it to look, and we'll tweak it and send it back, and we'll tweak it and send it back.
Yeah, no, very good. Is Penn Manor going to be on the hook for my jerseys for a senior night?
Great question. That's a booster club decision. I would certainly not. I would certainly not. Yeah. I mean, I personally don't have one, but I mean, I've been there. I've seen them from different schools. I obviously saw Kyle's when his was submitted for his day, and you have no idea that it's a piece of paper. It's an unbelievable rendition of a jersey. And like you said, I know I've heard you talk about in the past. Doesn't matter how old the jersey, whether it's a physical jersey or it's been a picture, the rendition of it's spot on.
Let's do this, Andy. Let's pass the buck to Larry. Make him the interview for Rocky, because he might have some things to ask Rocky. Maybe not even about my jersey. I don't know. You know, they got some connection there. Go ahead, Larry. You're on.
I got to ask Rocky some questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least one.
All right. I got put on the spot here. I might need a second, but
that's what we do.
No. So here's what I say. Now here's what I think. I think I kind of know the answer. But Rock, obviously, you've been out of coaching. You talked about, hey, you know, you get your life back. You know, you focus on your business. You get a lot of things back. But you've been an athlete and competitor your whole life. Like, yeah, maybe you don't want to jump back into coaching, but what's the one thing you miss?
I think about that often, and there's two things that I miss, and not nearly enough that I would. Honestly, guys, I don't think I'll ever get back into coaching. But there's two things I miss, and the number one thing is the relationship with you guys, Larry. I miss constantly interacting. Like, I've talked about this in the past so much. The head coaches in our league, in the Lancaster Lebanon League, are unlike any other. It's like a little fraternity community between the coaches. I mean, we want to kick each other's butts when the game's going on, but after the game or when we have a big win, I'm hearing from other coaches and I'm texting other coaches. Yeah. So that's the number one thing. It's I still have a relationship, but it's not the everyday type thing that I had with the coaches. And the number two thing, I loved like games, and I loved making adjustments, and I loved taking chances. And, you know, there's things I do in the games where people in the stands would look up and be like, what is he doing? But I just loved to mix up the game. And if the game wasn't going how I wanted it to try something different. And half the time I'd fail and half the time I succeeded. But I thought that was so much fun from a competitive standpoint, was just trying to tweak things in that game to try to give your team an advantage. So those are the two things that I miss.
I like it.
Rock, I have a question. It kind of piggybacks off of Larry's, but Del mentioned off top, obviously you've competed at a high level all the way up collegiately, and then coaching, taking teams to states and everything like that. And you just mentioned how you don't foresee yourself getting back into coaching. And a lot of times coaches will say that, and that's just lip service because it's that itch they can't scratch, right? They want to get back in. So for someone like you who has competed at such a high level, are you maybe surprised in some way that you don't have maybe those competitive, I don't want to say you don't have the competitive juices anymore. I mean, you're obviously using that in your business world to, you know, get an advantage in that sense. But like, are you kind of surprised that you don't really still have that urge to get back into coaching, I guess?
Yeah, so really good question. And I'm going to say no, I'm not surprised because here's the crazy thing, guys. I hit 27 years old and I was done playing. And I don't miss playing basketball one time ever. Like a lot of guys are like, oh, I wish I could go back to college and play again. I don't. I don't. Like I was there, I did it, moved on, next thing. That's just sort of how my brain works. It's like do it like like my jersey right now, like I'm building it. It's so much fun to build it. But you know what? If somebody would come along and be like, "Hey, I want to buy my jersey," I'd seriously think about it.
Yeah.
And then it would be like, "All right, then now what's the next thing?" You know what I mean? That's just sort of how my brain works is, do something, have success, and then move on to the next thing. So, yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. But again, I know that from my playing days.
Let's do this. Let's have we're gonna say goodbye to Rocky here in a minute, but I'm gonna have you ask Coach Bellew anything that you want to before we start grilling him.
Yes. So I have long said that I think Larry is one of the top three, if not best coaches in the Lancaster Lebanon League before he's had his recent success. And Larry, I know how difficult it was for me to go 5-17 in my first year. Um, I look at you with such like I look up to you because you withstood all those tough years and you've gotten your program to the point it is now. What's your advice to coaches out there that might be going through some difficult years? I went through 1 year, maybe 1.5 years, and I couldn't handle it. Like, what's your advice to those coaches out there that are struggling to hang in there and keep with it and keep doing what you're doing because you know it's going to turn around?
I think the first thing you got to do is surround yourself with the right people. It's something you cannot do alone. A high school program, grades 7 through 12, you got to have a staff that's willing to put in the time and do the right thing with the kids. So that's first. I think the second thing is then you've got to have your vision. And, I don't know when my days at Penn Manor will end. I mean, obviously I'm a lot closer to the end than I am the beginning. But when I got hired 13 years ago, my only promise that I made to Jeff Roth and Phil Gale at the time, the athletic director and the principal, was that, when I decided to leave, the program would be in good shape. We had come off a number of years of great varsity success. But the program underneath probably needed a little bit of work, and you can see that in my first couple of years, but maybe our talent level was down. We weren't quite connected. It took a couple of years to get that together. And then I felt like we were getting pretty close, and then COVID hit, and that kind of really gave us a little bit of a shock. Our talent dropped a little bit, and then we just weren't able to do some of the things that we'd been doing in the past, and then we dipped again. That was probably the hard part because you started to see some progress and like, hey, this is where we could go, and now all of a sudden we're right back to where we started. And I think that's just perseverance in life. Like nothing in life is ever going to be easy. You can look at your players and when they're having bad days or things aren't right at home or things aren't going well at school. And you talk to them about lean on your people, keep doing your best, and your moment will come. And obviously the last 2 years for us have been 3 years have been significantly better than the first half of the first 10 years. And you try to enjoy it. It's hard to enjoy it during the year, because you're always looking to what's next and how do we get better. But it's just perseverance, and you stand in front of your kids all the time and coach them as hard as you can, tell them you believe in them and trust them, and you're going to do whatever you can for them. If you walk away when things aren't going well, you just lied to them, and I will not stand on that. I'll go out kicking and screaming before I walk away from somebody who, before the job's done.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest though, Larry, there's one difference the past couple of years, and it starts with a B and his last name ends in an A. Come on. That's the secret. Barry Acker is the secret to the success, right?
Him, Lauren Souter has become our JV Coach Jack. I mean, Coach Jack brings it every day. I mean, I know where you want me to go with this.
Every day.
And I'm telling you right now, I'm amazed that we haven't had many meetings with upper administration with him, a couple times. Surprised Del. I'm surprised the school board guy. School board guy. Assistant coach, man. You're going to calm him down. here's the best story about Coach Ack. So obviously last year, our whole Hempfield situation with, the Friday night game where Devin got hurt, and how scary that was. We came back for the Thursday night game, and basically we were playing 13 minutes of basketball for every league playoffs on the line. Now, it had come to the point where, we just had to win that game. I thought we were going to have to win the Dallastown game, too, to make the district playoffs, but it was literally just a matter of we had to win that 13-minute game where we already had a 3-point lead. Stressful situation. It's the only time in my coaching career I walked out during a warm-up because I didn't like it. I said, guys, you got 13 minutes of your season on the line. This is how we're going to warm up. As a coach, that's the one thing I've walked away from is always trying to psychoanalyze everything. But that was the one time I walked out on the floor guys, we got 13 minutes. We're up by 10 with 9 seconds to go, and he's losing his mind. I said, Barrett, we got this one, man. I said, relax. It's been a long run. And he's going, I'm giving them nothing. I want to give them nothing. I'm like, dude, man, we got to enjoy this, So, yeah, he's unbelievable. But but as you do say with that, too, Lawrence Satter's become my JV coach in the last 3 years, and he's done an unbelievable job with those kids, too, preparing them for varsity. And our ninth grade coach with Eric Sarah and Patrick Welsh, who's been there a couple of years, and I got Caleb Graves back, and a former player of mine, Noe Perez. We're all on the same page. We got some young coaches that need a little bit more guidance. We're trying. It's hard to do it during the year. We're trying, but we got guys pulling in the same direction, and more importantly, the kids are pulling in the same direction now.
That's good. Let's do this. Rocky, I'm going to say goodbye to you, but you're more than welcome to stay on and listen and hop in. But we're gonna get Andy in here, talk to Coach Bellew a little bit. He's covered so many games this week. I'm so jealous because I didn't get out. I got out to see 2 games, but we're gonna bring him in. So if you want to leave us, Rock, that's good. Just end your meeting. If not, you can hang around and listen to some more yippee yap.
Hey, great seeing you guys. Good luck the rest of the way. I love following your stuff. You're all the best.
Thanks, Rock.
Sponsorship. Thank you, buddy.
You're welcome. See you.
Okay.
Thank you, man.
We're gonna throw it to you, Andy. Let's talk to Coach about whatever you want to talk about Penn Manor hoops, and then we'll get into what you and I have seen, and shoot the breeze a little bit.
Yeah, we can do that, can't we?
Yeah, we can.
So, Coach, I guess my question would be for someone who hasn't seen your guys' team yet, which oddly enough, I'm in that camp. You're one of the 3 I haven't seen yet. I guess describe how you guys are doing this, how you guys are undefeated in the section thus far, how you only have the 1 loss, because I think to an outsider's perspective, they see the best players that Penn Manor has had in roughly a generation graduate, and somehow the record is better without him there. So I guess speak into existence how this is working, because I think to some it may be catching some by surprise, but it's obviously working. So how are you doing it? How many guys are you playing? What's your style? And if it ain't broke, don't fix it, dude.
All right. So Andy, there was a little bit of a freeze there. So I think I got most of the question. It starts with 2 things. We decided this year that we were going to play in chaos. We were going to try and play as fast as we can on both ends of the floor. We were going to play 94 feet on defense. We were going to run and trap. We're going to rotate. We're going to try to take teams maybe out of their comfort zone. Now, we're going to give up some free looks. We're going to give up some layups, but that's the price of doing business. And we've said that, were either on our varsity roster or who was on somebody's varsity roster. We had one guy come back to us. Between our JV and varsity roster, we have 15 guys. So, and after a couple of guys, you got a lot of guys that kind of fall into the same mix. And we are consistently most games playing 12 guys, maybe a 13th guy, a couple minutes here and there, with the idea of we're just hoping to wear you out. We know in the first half that teams may make a couple more shots, may make a couple more plays, but we're hoping maybe by that mid-3rd quarter, if you're a really good team that plays 6-7 guys, that we start to see the fatigue in your legs. We start to see the fatigue in your decision making, and hope at that point then that the game's in a reachable, in a competitive situation where we can kind of wind it out to the end.
The other question I had, again, as someone who hasn't seen you, and I know Dell remarked about this last night after he saw you guys, is the connectivity. You guys all seem to like being around each other. I understand that winning cures a lot of ills, and it's easy to jump on board when things are going right. But was this a group that you saw before this start that was capable of kind of loving on each other? And I'm cool if I don't get my points, if you get yours, as long as we have more points than the other team at the end of the night.
I think that's the biggest question, and I think what you've got to do is start with give a massive credit to our seniors, because truthfully, they're the ones that have probably sacrificed the most minutes at this point. We do have some really talented juniors who, to this point, has been able to really perform for us, and some of our seniors have taken secondary roles or are now bench players because of that. And if they wanted to make this difficult at any moment, they could. And they've accepted their roles, and when they get their opportunity, they play their tails off. I mean, we've got guys that were at the very end of our varsity rotation last year who probably thought they'd have bigger roles this year, have very similar roles. Obviously, we took Andrew from being our starting point guard last year to now moving him off the ball, and he's coming off the bench. Like, those are hard things to do for 17, 18-year-olds, and they've accepted it. And then you got to flip side that. I've got two juniors in Mekhi Wallace and Jack Steele who have played mop-up minutes to this point, but they're the kind of 14th and 15th guys in a roster. I just can't play 14, 15. 13 is almost impossible. Again, they could be complaining and pouting about their minutes, but they come and work every day at practice too. So, that's the key. Winning probably helps that a lot. Can you complain a lot if you're winning games? If you do, your coach has a pretty easy comeback on you. Yeah. Not that I would do that, because I understand it. We try to talk to those guys and, pat them, tell them to keep working, because an opportunity is going to come. Last night we played without Nate Ruiz, our big guy, was homesick. So, and our other 2 5-men fouled out in regulation and in overtime. So we had kids, Parker Seipel and Julian Severino, 2 seniors who aren't playing as much as they would have liked this year, basically playing the 5-man role that they don't play. But they know that was their opportunity to help us win a game, and they went out and did what they needed to do. And that's what I'm proud of with this team.
Yeah. Let me finish with one thing with Coach, and then Andy, you and me will do our thing here a little bit. I'm curious, Coach, because I know Andy played in Section 1. I coached in Section 1 for a long time. You've coached in Section 1 forever. So this year, to me, it just seems so much different. It's still competitive as all get out, but it's a little bit different in that we don't have the Ethan Bennings. We don't have the Division II kid playing for Hempfield. It just seems there's not that top talent this year, but yet somebody's going to have to come through here. And I know you and I talked about it, and it's like, so as a coach, as you're looking at it, going into January, it's like there's got to be some separation coming up here between these teams. So do you see it as younger teams developing, or just teams getting a little bit better, or just what's your thoughts on your team going forward?
Well, I'm going to start with my team because, like I said, obviously that's the one I know the best. I think our style is unique. Obviously we still have 2 Section 1 teams to play, so we're going to have to see how it works. When we play McCaskey, we're going to have to see how it goes when we play Cedar Crest. Obviously playing that style against McCaskey, who wants to play fast beginning, is a little nerve-wracking. And, Cedar Crest with their size and athleticism, it's nerve-wracking knowing that, if we make mistakes against them, they certainly have enough potential to really hurt us. Well, my curiosity is going to be what happens when we play teams a second time. And now they've seen how we play, and what adjustments will they make, and how are we going to have to adjust? Because the thing about our press is it's not like your typical 1-2-1-1 where we're trapping the first pass all the time, or we're saying it has to go here, we trap. Like, if teams clear us out, we run a guy at somebody. But that doesn't mean we have to trap in the backcourt. We can trap in the front court. We could, we do have some zone traps that we have ready to go if we really think teams are doing a really good job against us, and to kind of take them out of what they're doing. We haven't used them yet this year. Like, we have lots of varieties in what we're trying to do. It's just going to be curious how teams match up. What I like most about my team is the grit. Like we talked about the win last night, my 2 leading scorers came off my bench. That's the kind of depth that we have, that, it's not always going to be the same guy every night, we play McCaskey here in a couple of days. We know who their 2 guys are that are going to score, When we play Cedar Crest, like, their offensive spark is going to be, the Speaks kid, and we have to find a way to guard Young inside. And from there, they got a lot of really solid players, but, those guys are going to be the guys. With us, yeah, you can say, you got to take away Michael and you got to figure out some things maybe with the point guards, but we have 3 or 4 other guys that are very capable of scoring. And I think that's what's made us unique. And, hope that the grit and the toughness and the togetherness that we've been talking about continues to go along with us. We know in January, I think we play 11 games in January. Like, they're not all going to be great, and it's going to be different guys on different nights. It's just going to be, how do we persevere and how do we recover if, things don't go our way.
Yeah. Andy, I'll let you finish with Coach and we'll send him on his way because he wants to spend some quality time with his wife, he told me. And
I got time, man. Don't worry about it. I got time.
Wants to watch some films.
No, Coach, I don't have any. I really don't have anything else for you.
Right.
Like I said, I still have yet to see you guys. Although you know how that works. That'll be famous last words. I'll see you, and you guys will lose. Like that's just the way it works. So maybe you want to keep me away as long as possible because maybe that's the secret potion that's working. But no, seriously, we're all happy for you. We know how much of a grind it's been for you at Penn Manor these last couple of years, and we say we don't root for people, but we have a soft spot for people, and we're happy to see you guys are, on the up and up right now. And, hopefully you guys can stay there. And I know we'd love to see Penn Manor in leagues again. So no pressure on you or anything to make sure that doesn't
news
fall
for him.
apart,
Makes a lot of us. I'd love to see it too.
Yeah.
I think what I said, so you guys, I very much appreciate the kind words and the perseverance and all those kind of things. And, like what Rocky was talking about with coaches in this league. And look, I know there's some coaches that are struggling, whether it's wins and losses, whether it's things off the court, those kind of things. And, I guess my note to any coaches or any of the kids and anybody like that is like, we're all in this together, no coach is not playing a kid because they don't like them, or they don't like their parents or anything along those lines, man. It's such a hard coach. It's such a hard sport to coach. I mean, you need talent, obviously, when you need your systems, you need everybody pulling in the same direction, but, talent matters, all those kinds of things. And, it's not like wrestling or where you wrestle it off or it's a swim off, or if I'm faster than you, I get to play. It's so much of a field sport who plays well together. And that's the challenge we have, like even this year with our guys, we got so many guys, we're just trying to find the lineups that work. And, I'd say to anybody out there, man, just keep grinding and keep doing your best and be open and communicate with your kids, your administration, where you're at, how it's going, because sometimes just getting that off your chest, I know when I've been down in the dumps, just having somebody to talk to, was important.
Good stuff. I know you picked up a game on Thursday. And,
yes.
We are planning on live streaming your Cedar Crest game. So battle for first place at that point, I think. I don't think there's any league games between then and now. But
we do play McCaskey that Wednesday before. Okay. So
right.
That'll be,
We'll probably have that covered somehow.
Yeah. We'll make sure we're ready for that before I worry about Crest. That's good. That's what makes this hard. Like you talk about the grind on coaches. Like I don't know how other coaches do it with film, but like I will not watch Cedar Crest until after the McCaskey game.
Good.
I can't. My brain doesn't work in like I got to stay locked in on the one thing. So, that'll be the biggest game of the season when we get to it. Section 1 road game. Those are like winning 2 if you can steal one of those here and there.
Yeah. All right. Hey, thanks, Coach. We'll see you soon. Appreciate it. You want to end? I mean, you're welcome to stick around, listen to me and Andy and BS, but you can watch it on the between your game films. If you want a little humor, you can tune us in. But thank you for everything.
And before I log out to the 2 of you, obviously it's always a thank you for all that you do for the league. Andy, I actually enjoyed our day at Solanco. I've never really sat down and talked to you for a long time. So it was nice to sit down that game and actually chat for once, like humans, not, coaches all gooned up about a game.
Hey, I heard Andy's on speed dial for some coaches for just bouncing stuff off of him.
I heard that rumor.
I keep telling him, Andy, how are you going to help these coaches? I said, you're a reporter, It's like, Coach, you wouldn't believe that people want to talk to me. I said, that's because you're LLHoops, man. That's why.
He's seen a lot too. I mean, I think about my days with Coach Goodling and all the scouting I did and how much I learned from just watching all those different teams.
Yeah.
And then Del, I know you said today, today with your health that you've had, it's been a long day, you're tired, but you know what? I hope you're tired because you got a chance to go out and do what you love yesterday and, see some games and see some people and, feel the connection between the I'm happy to see you out in the gyms again.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
I hope it's a good tire today. And
yeah, I was very excited, very, very excited.
Yeah.
So, thank you,
Larry,
Coach.
Larry, can you believe that? Larry, he goes out his first night and he sees Penn Manor. I've been out for 20 some nights. I haven't seen Penn Manor. I'm getting upstaged already. This is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
He's the boss. What are you going to do? You know,
I know.
you
I know it. I know it.
Okay.
So,
thanks, Coach Bellew. Good
guys,
luck
thank you
this
very
week.
much. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, guys, take care.
All right.
See you.
All right, Andy, I don't even know where you're going to begin tonight. I really don't. I saw you had your notepad there, so I don't know. However you want to do it, your highlights or what you're seeing in general. I know we start with one thing, we wind up down the road just because that's the way you and I roll here.
Well, we can keep it with where,
but people can fast forward, right? They get the fast forward button. All right,
go ahead. That's true. No, we can keep it where we just were with section 1, and I think you made. I think you made a good point. It is sort of the Wild West right now, and there is a lot of cannibalism going on with these teams. And I think last year is sort of a microcosm of what works now. You have Cedar Crest, who had a nucleus forever and ever and ever, who were at their senior year, and we kind of expected that. And then you had Penn Manor, who maybe didn't have as good of a core nucleus as Cedar Crest, but they had the best player that the school has had in 15, 20 years, right?
At least.
Exactly. So now the question, which you mentioned to Coach, is there doesn't seem to be that like top flight for sure college player coming out the door next year after he takes off his cap and gown at graduation. Exactly. So what's going to be the difference? Well, if you have a team like Penn Manor that's going to play like near flirt with like 15-ish type guys and not like 7, right? I mean, that's going to be a huge feather in their cap. Yeah. And you're seeing it. They're undefeated right now. And yes, they haven't played everybody. I get it. But I certainly didn't have Penn Manor unbeaten at this point in the section, right? I mean, Ethan Benny did so much for that program that you just naturally thought, okay, it's going to come back somehow, some way. It just has to, but it hasn't.
But I'll give Coach Bellew. I mean, I've worked with Coach. I coach with Coach. Hell, I coach him in E-Town. You know, so I know his personality pretty well. He's competitive as all get out. But the thing that I enjoy as a reporter and an ex-coach and a very bad player at Danville Cleona, I always appreciate guys that are willing to change their system. At the Division III level, when I was coaching there, it's like you could walk into the gym 15 years after you played a coach, and it's the same coach there. He's running the same stuff. You didn't need any film because he's doing the same thing. Well, the adjustments that Coach Bellew has made from last year to this year, and it's talent-based, there's no doubt. But you and I saw him this summer. And we knew he was going to try different stuff. And he said, this is what we need to do to win. So I've been impressed with that. Obviously, I haven't seen too many, but you and I are junkies. We're watching the box scores. We're talking to coaches. We got a feel for even out seeing all these teams. And we will. I mean, that's the other thing. We're going to see a team. I'll see Penn Manor a couple more times, and I'll have a better feel. It's like, okay, this kid's getting better. This kid's getting better. The team's getting better. They're making more foul shots all of a sudden. They're getting to the rack. They're doing some different things. They're making adjustments. All these coaches right now, I know, going into January, then they're hitting the leagues again. They're figuring out what they got and what they don't have and what they need to do to crawl into that LL race. And probably in a strange way, Andy, Section 1, and these other sections we're going to talk about in about 2 minutes. Everybody's got an opportunity, and there's not, at least in Section 1, there's no 0-10 teams. Everybody still has a shot to climb the ladder in this section, which at this point of the year usually doesn't happen. There's usually a couple of teams that are just like, okay, we're playing for next year. We're getting as good as we can get, but just looking at the standings, everybody still has a chance because, as you said, they're going to beat each other. Some of these teams are going to beat. There's not going to be the 10-0 team this year in Section 1. Not happening. It's not. Maybe Penn Manor, but I shouldn't say maybe not, but I don't see it. I just see these teams being some of them so equal, and maybe not better than equal, but equal that they can beat. And you and I have talked about it. Anybody can beat anybody in this section right now, I think.
Correct. And you're right. And when you look across all of the sections, there is, I mean, like anything, there has to be a quote unquote favorite, or someone has to sit in that number one spot. And you have that in all the sections. Like you could say Warwick is in section 2, that team right now. But then you have Ephrata, who very quietly is also unbeaten in section play.
Yes.
And oh, by the way, went up to Northern Lebanon and won their holiday tournament yesterday.
Yes.
So they have yet to play, those two teams, and that's a 2-game series that we're going to see here sooner rather than later. So let's see what happens there. But yes, Ephrata undefeated. CV, when they have it cranking, they can be very, very, very dangerous. Okay. Then we go down to section 3. We have LS played a really, really, really good Conestoga team the other day. I saw in person. That team is really, really good out of District 1.
Super impressed with Conestoga. We got a little love on Twitter on that too. So
we did.
Interesting. It's interesting. We see some of these teams play, and you got to give some of these teams a lot of credit for stepping outside. You know, you got to give LS some credit. You got to give Mennonite some credit. Some of these teams are taking on some teams that they normally wouldn't take on. So we hit section 3 a little bit. You want to go to 2 or keep talking about 3?
No, I mean, we like with 3. I mean, like I said, we have Octorara in there who's 10-1. By the way, another holiday tournament champion. They won up at Fleetwood after getting through a fire alarm, I guess, for like 40 minutes or something. They had to
How about that?
Yeah. I was asking Coach Lambert. I'm like, did you guys shoot it so hot that you guys set the place on fire? He's like, no, it was. He's like, no, not quite. But
not quite. No.
Yeah, but yeah, they're up there. Central, obviously, Mannheim Central taking the dip, as we've said before, from 2 to 3 section wise. Is undefeated in the league because they only have 1 loss.
Yeah.
And then section 4, obviously, we have the same favorites we've talked about all year: the Mennonites, Country Day, Anvil. So yeah, I mean, all of these races, teams are going to be. I mean, there is sort of an upper crust in each one of the 4, but there is no. Okay, let's mail like Warwick the trophy or LS the trophy. Like there's none of that going on, regardless of what the standings show on December 30th right now. So I guess my other question to you, as a savant who's seen this league forever and ever and ever, when I say to you that we have 0 undefeated teams heading into the month of January, what does that say to you, just in any sort of direction you want to go with that? Because Warwick lost at home to Palmyra on the 23rd. They were one of the 3 that was unbeaten. Mannheim Central lost to West York over at West York's tourney this week. And last night, I saw Mennonite lose to Linville Hill, who, although they're not in our league, they really need no introduction to a local audience because, in my opinion, they're for sure a prohibitive favorite for District 3 2A to win that championship. And I'm not going to be surprised if they play a Giant Center 2 times, meaning, oh, yeah, there's a state final after that. So what do you make of that the league has no undefeated teams going into the first month of the calendar year?
So as ex-coach hat on, I'm going to say 2 things. Number one, we don't have super, and I know I might catch some grief for this. I don't think we have super dynamite point guards. And you saw that with Conestoga a little bit, bigger.
Yes.
I think that's number one. Number 2, in our league this year, there's not a lot of big guys. Last year, there was some dudes that could play. There were some big guys that could play. And I think there's not that 2-headed monster. I saw Warwick play, and they have some kids that can play, but it's not consistent yet. These teams aren't separating because one day their top guy will have 2 points and foul trouble, and the next day somebody will be hurt. Even Larry said, my guy, he was sick and things like that. So I think the consistency with the 2-headed monster, I'll just call it a 2-headed monster, and just developing that rhythm. Andy, as we watch the box scores, we're not surprised when a team scores 40 one day and 90 the next. So you're not getting consistent offensive play, and we don't have that 6'7" shot blocker that's stopping teams at the other end. When teams are driving in the basket, it's like, no, 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 you're not coming in here. You got to beat us with a jump shot today. So that's how I see it right now. And I think you and I talked last night, and I think somebody going to come out and maybe not out of nowhere, but somebody to be more consistent in the next 2 weeks to establish themselves as the number 2 team or the number 3 team, or a team that can knock off a 1 team on an upset someplace down the road. That's how I see it right now.
And the more I think about it, I think maybe the sort of the blueprint for how this is going to work moving forward is sort of again, I'll go back to the Cedar Crest model from last year. You just mentioned the 2-headed monster inside. Well, you had Champ and Young. Yeah. ain't no twin tower lineup that was like that last year. And then you're going to have the nucleus of like the 6, 7, 8 guys that have played together for ever and ever and ever, who might take their lumps when they're sophomores, or if they get super froshed or whatever, but they go through the wars, and then come that senior year, that's when they start to peak. And then you're going to have the bigger guards to go along with that, for that physical lineup with like Marquez, and then you have the snipers like Torado. Like, it was just sort of again, the more I think about it and the more I talk about it out loud, I just think that's sort of the mold for how, if you want to have success, for what this is going to look like. And I know we can't recruit and, make our own roster, and I know we can't do that, but I think what's going to be more of the bulletproof type thing is that the big guys inside, the nucleus around them that have played forever, and then the bigger guards that can shift or that can get other guards in foul trouble. Like, they don't even have to score 1 million points. Just take the other team out of what they do best, because we haven't had that super, freak athletic that, Ohio State's coming and knocking down the door to come into open gyms. Like, that guy just hasn't been here of late. And I don't know if they're coming up anytime soon. I hope they are, because it's always a lot more fun, selfishly, to cover teams like that. Yeah. And then you get into a whole nother argument of, well, can you keep him at home and whatever. But again, I think with the way, and maybe that's why Penn Manor's working right now. I know they're not overly big, but when they can throw wave after wave after wave after wave at you, it adds up. It adds up. Like, I mean, it just does. So
ninth player, their leading scorer last night in a holiday at a good team. Both of their teams were first place teams. So going in, it's like, okay, who's going to score? Well, Lauer's going to score. Well, Jensen's going to score. Like, Majesty going to score. It's like, all right, who else is going to score? Galleon's going to score 18. Now, who calls that? Nobody calls that, because the kid, he was struggling a little bit. I'm telling you, he hit his first couple shots, and it's like, I was sitting beside Joe Schindel, who helps us a little bit with scoring, and he's going to get going tonight. And soon he hit the first shot, and then on my interview with him, that's exactly what he said. He said, "Hey, I had the confidence once I knocked that first one down. I felt good about it." So that's my take on it. Tell me a little bit. I know you and I talk. Just tell me about what you saw with Linville, because we don't cover Linville. We see him in the districts. We know Coach Schatzman. We know Mennonite pretty well. But you saw an interesting game last night.
Yeah, I did. I said it in my piece. It felt a little or anticlimactic to have it at Avon Grove. I mean, by the way, gorgeous facility. I would encourage. I know they had Linville Hill down there for state playoff games before, but if somehow like Country Day or like Mennonite or someone ends up playing a game down there, it's worth the trip. There's plenty of parking. The gym is beautiful. But anyway, we had to get a Lancaster County brouhaha down near the Delaware state line, but it was well worth it. Linville jumped out early lead. They were up like 8-2. Mennonite methodically came back. They ended up taking the lead in the second quarter. Cody Fisher dunked. We need like a dunk meter for him, it seems like, every night. And then they just gradually started kind of building their lead. Linville would cut it to within 2 or so, and then Mennonite would build it back up. And the largest lead, I think, was 49-38 in the fourth quarter. And it's like, well, not that it's over, but it kind of sort of feels that way. But then Mennonite just left the door open. And when you have a team like Linville that plays, as to quote Coach Schatzman, plays 11 months out of the year, if we're talking about grizzled vets and, experience and everything like that, it's hard to beat 11 months out of 12.
Yes.
They just steadily came back and they eventually climbed the hill. And Giovanni seduced. Play was broken. Coach said the play was broken. The kids didn't run it the way exactly he wanted to, but players make plays.
Yeah.
So Drew Tibbins, point guard for Linville, throws up a lob near the cup. Sejuice catches it, finishes through contact. That puts him up by 1. He hits the 3 throw, puts him up by 2, 50-48. Mennonite has a shot at the end. It bounces off the rim at half court. Linville somehow escapes with the Avon Grove Holiday Tournament championship, beats Mennonite. Fantastic game. Still think probably the 2 best small school privates that we have going in Lancaster County right now. And yeah, Linville is not super deep. They're playing 5, 6, 7 seems to be a stretch. But what was remarkable to me is, yes, they were complimentary of Mennonite and how tough of a test they always are. But you just kind of got the feeling, talking to some of the guys and the coach, it's like, man, we left a lot of meat on that bone out there tonight. Like, yeah, we won, but man, we didn't execute the way we're capable of. And and to me, as like an outside observer, that's a scary thought. When you have a team that beats a team the likes of Mennonite, and it's like, yeah, we're happy we won, but like, man, our ceiling is so much higher. It makes you wonder, right? Like, how much higher is that ceiling? Because I think they can win. Well, they should win districts, in my opinion. They probably could win states. It's nice to see that a team that kind of knows how good they are knows how good they are.
Yeah.
And they know they had a ways to go to hit that. But yeah, it's a great game last night. I wish they play more often. Maybe they will, but for one night in time, that was well worth the trip. An hour south of Lancaster, or from where I live in Lancaster County, even if it had to be in Chester County. So yeah.
So you saw a lot of basketball this weekend. Give me some of the top players you saw. I know the one kid's going to be from Conestoga.
Yeah, Rowan Miller from Conestoga. I like him, man. He's a junior. He's one of those players that, like I said last week with Your Majesty, it takes about 2 possessions, and it's like, oh yeah, that's a college basketball player. Like that's very easy to see. Yeah, shoot. I'm trying to think of the games that I did see. I mean, that's the problem with seeing all these games is everything gets muddied. You see a ton of games. Yeah, shoot. That's tough. I will say, and this is not a slight to the kids that we see all the time, but there's a lot of talent out there. Like, if you expand your horizons outside of our 2 primary counties, there's a lot of talent out there. Like, I mean, Conestoga, I didn't know a whole lot about coming in. I mean, I did my research and studied them, and it's like, oh, they won at Lower Merion. Like, that has to mean something because that's where Cedar Crest lost last year in the first round of states.
Yeah.
And I was just thoroughly impressed. And I know our guys are going to play them at least a few more times, but Mifflin, I love Mifflin up in Berks. I love them. If you're asking me to pick like the best teams I've seen this year, it's probably Conestoga and Mifflin, believe it or not. Yeah. So yeah, I top players is hard for me just because I see everybody. I'm trying. Let me scroll through my thing. Let me see if anybody scrolling away. Redline. Yeah, Redline. Again, all sophomores, all underclassmen if they're not sophomores, juniors.
Yeah.
Put a mercy rule on Conestoga Valley and the Cedar Cliff tournament. Kid had 25. Ogrecock or Ogrechuck. I forgot. I don't know the kid's name, but he had 25. And then I started off the week with the Twin Valley and E-Town game, and E-Town came up short 65-29. So, yeah, you're right. A lot of games to be seen this past week. It's going to take a little bit of a quieter tone this week. We were supposed to have 2 games on Monday coming up. I don't know what happened with the Oxford and LS game that was supposed to happen at noon tomorrow. That got nixed. So we have 1 game tomorrow. Nobody's on New Year's Eve. Nobody's on New Year's Day. Sort of get cranked up a little bit on the 2nd. I'm probably going to be out at Penn Manor for that West York game that they picked up. And then Friday we'll sort of get back into the rhythm and flow that we've been used to. So
what do we got?
That's kind of my.
What do we got coming up live stream? I know you've been handling our scheduling a little bit.
Yeah, so we're for sure going to try and get into that Cedar Crest and Penn Manor game on Friday the 10th. I have to make sure that we're good to go scheduling wise, I should say, for Anvil, Cleona, and Mennonite, because if that schedule works out, that's hopefully the night before. So that could be 2 first place games in 2 different sections on back-to-back nights. We're trying to get the go ahead for possibly Mannheim Central Doctorera. Again, another first place implications type game on the 14th, which is a Tuesday. Then we have the all day Mannheim Hoop Fest on Saturday the 18th. And then I think we're off until the state champs from 6A roll into the cage and take on Cedar Crest. On the 25th of January. So
we got some stuff coming up. Some good,
yes,
probably at least on paper. So I'm anxious to get us back online with that, and I talked to Bruce today, and he's going to get us going. So let's. I haven't looked at the stats, which usually by now I'm zeroed in on who's looking at what, but I know we have top tens being done by Joe Schindel. I know John Kay is doing his thing in Scranton area. I know Sterling is doing the Instagram stuff. He's going to cut this up and get my oohs and ahs and my dribbles off of us and do a little love. He was at the game last night, so he'll have some highlights in there, and he's loving life with us right now. But I think things are going pretty well with the website as far as traffic. We're getting a ton of hits on Instagram. We're getting a ton of hits on Twitter. And the more I look at it, the more like Twitter drives us. It just seems to be the place that people come, they comment, they look and follow. And I mean, even last night, I put a couple videos up and I got 900 hits, which I couldn't believe because I'm trying to hold the daggone phone straight. And it's like I'm hitting the record button and all that. But it's been good to give a couple t-shirts out too. Our 25th. I wanted to make a big deal out of the 25th and go back into our archives and find some stuff. And we might, before it's all done, we might get some good stuff. But I think, Andy, I know you've been with me for what, 10, 15 years. It's crazy. It's just crazy that we're still here, selling t-shirts and giving them away.
Giving them away mostly.
Yeah, well,
giving them away
okay.
mostly.
That's
but deservingly so. Like last night with Sejuice, he kind of looked at me like I had 2 heads. He's like, "Well, what's this for?" I'm like, "Dude, you're player of the game. You earned it." He's like, "Oh, cool, thanks." And it's like I
thought he got one last year at the district final. I thought I gave him one. I don't know if he was, but yeah, I interviewed one of the Linville kids. So the same way with Jalen Cook from Dallas. I mean, what a nice interview. We don't know some of these guys. And I talked to Coach and I said, Coach, give me a player of the game. I want to give a t-shirt. What a nice kid. And we talked a little bit. And I mean, Del needs a haircut, but everything else went really well. You know what I'm saying? So we'll get after it again this week. I think things are going well. I appreciate you coming on here. And I think this is a nice feature. We just, I know when you and I talk, when we try something new, we just got to stick with it for a while to see how it rolls. And as we get going here, we'll bring in some of our writers, we'll bring in some of our sponsors, and we'll get some mid-pen boys in here. And David Bray, I don't know what the heck he was doing this weekend. I mean, how can he cover all those games? I can't wait to read his write-up this week. That's for sure. So. Thank you for everything you've done, brother. We'll get this up. I don't know when it'll be up, a couple days from now, but it'll be up and give us some content, and we'll see how it shakes down. I think the next time you and I talk, we'll have a little bit better idea what's going on with the LL anyway. And then as we start turning the corner to January and February, we'll start looking at districts and see what we think. So we'll go there.
Well, that'd be good. I look forward to that because as someone who's seen 20 or so games, I don't have any clue what's going on with this league right now.
Yeah.
Which makes it exciting. But yeah, hopefully we got some clarity.
It'll be good. Thank you, man. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year's. Be safe out there for all our players and parents and stuff. We got some good football coming up. We got the Knits. And I just want to let you know, the Knits are still there. They're still playing.
Maybe there's a high school game in like Delaware I can check out or something that night.
It's all good. Hey, thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.